Be sure to check out what the laws are where you're at because the requirements of who can do this vary. In today's video, we're talking about how to plan a wedding ceremony. What do you need to think about? What do you have to decide? And how can you do this without too much stress? We're going to touch on all that in just a minute. But first, who can actually help you with your ceremony? In most states, you'll need an authorized person to make it all legal. This is usually a priest, pastor, imam, officiant, or some other person licensed by the place you're getting married to perform wedding ceremonies. Be sure to check out what the laws are where you're at because the requirements of who can do this vary. You'll also want to be sure you're taking the right steps for where you are because most often you need to follow the laws of where your wedding will take place regardless of where you personally live. Most folks will decide if they want to have a religious ceremony or a non-religious ceremony before choosing their officiant because if you're going to get married in a church or other formal place of worship, they probably have a process that you have to follow. This can certainly make your ceremony planning process easier, but it also means less opportunity for personalization. For example, some places of worship won't allow any secular or non-religious music to be played as a part of your ceremony. So if you've been dreaming of walking down the aisle to Christina Perri's 1,000 Years, but the place you're planning to have your ceremony won't allow it, you may want to rethink that plan. If you decide on a religious ceremony location, you'll typically receive a specific set of instructions from that place. So for you, planning your ceremony is likely going to be pretty straightforward. You'll probably choose some music, pick a reader or two, select a passage to be read, and that might be all. Good for you for getting that stuff wrapped up easily. But if a religious ceremony is not for you, or if you want a somewhat religious ceremony not held in a formal house of worship, you'll probably have more decisions to make. You'll need to decide what to do for your ceremony, and you'll want to try to answer these questions as a start. Who's going to officiate your wedding? What do you want them to say or not say? What wedding ceremony traditions would you like to include? For example, will someone give you away? Will you exchange vows, exchange rings? Do you want anyone else to read something or perform a special song or do something else? As a planner, I have a resource folder that I share with my clients that has sample ceremonies, programs, popular readings, and more that can give you a starting place for all of this. There are also tons of resources online to consider as well. When planning your ceremony, you'll likely want to make sure you include at least the following elements: some kind of welcome to your guests, some promises or vows that you make to each other, an exchange of rings or some other symbol or method to demonstrate your promises to each other, and an official pronouncement that you're married, because you gotta give folks something to cheer for. What else you might add is totally up to you. To me, the best is when people take time to think about what makes their partnership unique and then add an element that showcases that into their ceremony. Most people say they want their ceremony to be short and simple, and while I never argue in favor of long and boring, I do think it's important to give your ceremony some consideration because that's why everyone's there to celebrate with you. As with all of my other advice to couples, I think planning your ceremony should be about hanging on to the traditions that mean something to you and letting go of those that don't, and then adding in anything that magnifies meaningful moments for both you and your loved ones. Keep going in that direction and you'll be done before you know it. If you want more information on planning your ceremony, click the video linked on screen now. We dig even more into ceremony planning and discuss the logistics of getting everyone down the aisle for your ceremony.